Hello everybody. It's a little warm today. It's 33 Celsius right now outside, and plus the humidity, which is just over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The shepherds aren't enjoying the heat, so we're just leaving them out for 5 minutes at a time. And I don't know if you can tell from the video, but there's a lot of smoke in the air, and the stink of the smoke from forest fires out west of us. So we decided we're gonna take the day off today from fishing. Gonna stay inside the garage where it's nice and cool. Whew, you can feel it right now. And we're gonna work on our 1983 Big Red. It's been sitting here for a couple months, and we kind of just kept putting the project off. Had a good friend, his brother, fixed our axles for us, rethreaded them, and machined this one down, so we'll be able to get the axles back in place. So it's nice in here right now. So as you can see, I think the outdoor temperature is a little bit off. It says 41, but I think it's in the sun right now. Indoors it's 22 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 Fahrenheit. So it's actually really comfortable in here. So good day to work on the Big Red project. We'll get that going. And we were back today, so it's been a little while since we took this apart. I think we took it apart sometime in the winter time, and we just haven't had time to put it back together, and we've had too many other projects on the go. But we're gonna work on it today. And I guess one of the issues we were waiting for was when we took the axle. This is the front axle, and we took the rear axle out. The bearings were so shot in it that everything was seized, and basically we put the nut on it, hammered the axle to get it out of the hub itself, but we ended up damaging some of the threads. So our friend had the threads kind of remachined just to get them all fixed up so we can put it back together. So we'll see if we can put it back together.
Just gonna put a little bit of grease on all these parts just so they don't seize again.
Yeah, hopefully it lasts another 40 years, eh? So this is our 1983 Honda Big Red. So, I mean, it's actually in really good shape. I think the worst thing on it is the seat. We just have a bunch of duct tape on there right now, because what they did was where the leather kind of met the underneath of the seat, it's all metal pieces, and that's basically just rusted right away. So we're gonna have to get that done eventually, but we'll get this going, and we've done a couple little upgrades. We've changed the headlight that was useless to put a nice LED light on it. So let's watch what the young guy does.
Yeah, so this front shock here, it's got this little bracket on it. That's got a hole with a slot cut in, and that's for the brake cable. So that's gonna go on the left side of the bike. So I'm gonna slide the axle through this hole.
That'd be the right side of the bike. You're looking at the left side. Okay, that's fine.
My left, but
yes,
the right side of the bike. So I slide that through.
And one of the upgrades too is what we did was we actually we got rear brakes. So we're gonna have a foot brake as well as rear brakes on it, which will be nice. It'll be the first time in probably about 30 years since we had some brakes on this. Front brakes, we just basically, I think we took the pads out of the front. Put some grease on it just to...
And same thing with this brake drum. This little nub here is going to go through this hole when I line it up.
And sorry, just again, there's no pads in the front there. We just had some issues, wouldn't be able to find them. There's some difficulty ordering them right now with the pandemic stuff and that. So we just go without the front brakes right now.
And this is our hub assembly. So I'm just gonna have to...
Yeah, and I think we did a video earlier. There's a couple different videos on the bearings, the bearing removals, as well as the replacement of the bearings. So we'll just slide the axle through. Tell you what, it goes together a lot easier than it came apart. Look at that. That whole piece, when we took that off, that whole thing was seized, and we heated the heck out of it and hammered finally to get that apart before we took the bearings out. So
yeah, then there's this collar here that's going to slide back over the axle. like that. And the other fork's gonna go on. And their axle nut.
Yeah, so we got one old nut that's left, and we've had went to a tool place this morning and got a couple. There's 14 metric, 1.5. The size I believe they are. So we went to the Honda dealer and they would have had to order them. They were $3 a piece. We got all three of these replacements just for less than $3. So even though they don't have the I guess the castling kind of thing in that, but we just put the cotter pin on the outside of it. I guess looks like we need a new one. This is the only tire that we hadn't replaced. We replaced the two back ones. I think they're about $100 a piece. We'll get by for the next little bit, make sure this thing runs okay before we spend the money on that. I mean, and they're low pressure. I think they're about 2.5 psi, so it should be okay. So we got the axle with the one fork. We'll put it through the front tire, put the spacer ring on there, and we're gonna put the was there 4 bolts on that?
4 nuts on it.
4 nuts. Those are size, they're 12 mil?
12 mil.
12 mils. So we'll just tighten those on and we'll come back. We're gonna, here we got that, the right fork bolted back onto the hub through the wheel. Push the spacer in, put the left fork back on. I'm just wondering if it's gonna be easier. Try putting it back onto there, or put the bolt onto it first. What's your thoughts?
I'll probably bolt that first.
Yeah, so we'll put the bolt on and we'll come back. Try. So when we took it apart, when we took the washer off here, I think we lost the washer, so we just had one, and we didn't have one big enough, but we just drilled one out and just kind of flatten the edge here, kind of goes against this piece. So we'll do that, and put the camera down. We're gonna lift the front end up, and we'll insert the forks onto the front. Flatten the edge here. So we just threaded the bolt on enough that we can get the cotter pin through the hole in the axle. And then we have a little kit that we bought a couple years ago from Harbor Freight in the States, and things good for having leftover little pieces that we need all the time. So that's through there, and we'll just bend it. We can use our fingers, or we can get a pair of pliers and do it.
Fine.
Yeah.
Do that.
And once we put it back together, we're gonna have a couple leftover parts. Those are just all for the front brakes, but we'll know we did it correctly if we have some parts left over at the end, right?
Yep.
I don't think the weight's down on the front end yet because we have the blocks at the back.
Yeah. So
what we have to do is just we inserted the fork into the bike, and I don't know if you can tell by the angle, but the forks are in just a little too far. So we'll lift up on the bike, just have the forks kind of go down, and we'll put the bolts back on each side. And I don't.
So these bolts we're gonna insert through the shocks. So the nut is a 17 mil, and the bolt's 14. So we're just gonna go ahead and tighten that up. Just get it snug.
Yeah, we'll do that on both sides. We'll just go snug, and we'll wait till we're line everything up to make sure we don't have to take it out.
Don't tighten this one up all the way before you install, because otherwise you won't be able to move these forks to get them to go in here. Tighten that after we're done these.
So all we did right here is we just used one of these plastic zip ties just to kind of keep the rubber boot on. The old metal little hose type clamp had been just was rusted and corroded and ended up breaking when we took them off. So we did the exact same on the other side. So the front end's done. So we'll lift up on the front end and it spins. Woohoo!
No noise?
No, and we'll try the Weeble Wobble, and there's absolutely no play side to side on that, so I think that's a success. Now let's go to the back, and we'll try. Just gonna put some grease on here, make it so it doesn't seize. Here we got the axle. It's all been cleaned up. We'll put that through the hub. Spins pretty good with the new bearings. As we can see too, there's absolutely no play in that before. The problem why we decided to do this in the first place is basically when you grab this axle and wiggled it, the whole thing would move, and it would wiggle sideways both ways, and the sprocket that goes on here that holds the chain, basically that sidewards play and the up and down play, the chain would jump off the sprocket every single time it kind of went around corners, spun the tires. So that's why we decided to do that. So we'll continue putting it together.
Like, this is actually the front bearing here. You can see how much play is in this one. This is the back one.
Yeah, so
you'd probably hear that. See how corroded they are too. There's no grease in them. I bet you could have got another 30 years out of those bearings. Put new grease in them. No grease.
okay, we got the sprocket for the chain. We just put a little grease on there, and chain goes over the axle. We'll put the sprocket on. There we go, we got a light now. So we got the sprocket on, chains over top of the sprocket. Put that into place. And what we may have to do is we may have to just adjust the chain case here a little bit. It looks like it's probably touching. So it's kind of a poor design, and we've kind of reinforced it, but every time you bottom out, it's a low point on the bike. It would push up into the chain. So we're just gonna get a pair of pliers maybe and just kind of bend that down a little bit. Then we put that.
There's just this clip here. There's a groove machined into the axle. It basically just locks in this sprocket so it doesn't come out.
Next thing we do is just try pushing it in place. We may need some screwdrivers just to kind of pop it in. Put the camera down, we'll get that and we'll come back.
I'm gonna need you to help.
You need
Another like screwdriver or something.
we have just good ones here, right?
Yeah. No, work your way around from where I'm holding it.
There we go. Nice. So we're just going to put these washers on each of the studs for the sprocket. Then we have the nuts. We'll put those on, and those are 12 mil. We'll just tighten those on, and we'll tighten that down. Then we have. So when we look at this, the chain is pretty loose right now. So there's some bolts on the back side of this. So I'm just gonna walk around.
Yeah, so if you actually,
When we right underneath is the bolt and the nut for the chain tensioner, and we're not sure what size it is because it looks like it's a aftermarket Grappa special. So we'll tighten this one, and we'll see if we can tighten the chain.
it's going.
I'll show the chain in a second. So we have the chain tightened with a chain tensioner. It is just underneath here. Then we have 4 bolts, one here, one on the opposite side, and there's 2 underneath here, and that tightens the whole hub. There's a whole axle, so we can see with that chain tensioner what the difference with the chain is. So that seems pretty good.
About I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, maybe half inch.
I mean, it's an old chain. That's a 40-year-old chain, so it's probably quite stretched. So what we'll do is, it's a lot better than it was. We'll put it back together. We're going to try it, and we may have to tighten it, or may have to loosen it a little bit. So we're just tightening those 4 bolts, those 2 on each side on the back side, just to tighten the axle into place.
You want them fairly tight, otherwise your chain will fly off.
That's done. Put the chain cover back on.
So there's 2 nuts holding this on. I believe they're in 8 mil.
Put the camera down. We'll find the socket. We'll come back after the cover's
Sorry,
on.
they're 10 mil.
Yeah, so we'll put the chain cover back on. We have 2 nuts. They're both 10 mils. We're just gonna put the camera down. We'll come back after the cover's on.
10 mil.
One thing we try to do is we try to put a piece of sheet metal in there to kind of fill in the bottom, the chain cover, but it won't go back together, so we have to take this piece out. We'll worry about keeping the chain clean some other way. We got the 2 nuts to hold the chain case on.
Okay, next thing on this side is this plate here. It just has 3 bolts. I'm just gonna thread into the axle.
We forgot to show the last step. We don't have any chain lube here, so we just use WD-40 to spray on the chain for now. We'll
Not the best thing, but
No, it's not the best thing. I'll do for now. We'll have to get some chain lube. It's around here somewhere. We just
I
can't
have to
find
get
it.
a new chain.
Yeah, we're looking at the chain. The chain, I think, may be bent a little bit from our last ride there, I guess, before when the bearings seized up and that. So we might have bent it. So we're gonna try it out anyway, and we'll see how it runs. I mean, there's a from our last. Okay, next step is I just put a little grease on the splines on the axle. We had marked these hubs before, or when we took them off, so I just have an L on here for left. So we'll put that onto the spline, make sure it's seated all the way. Then the washer, then the nut. These are the new ones that we had to buy. So let's put the camera down and we'll go ahead and do that. The hub on, then the spacer washer, then we'll put our new nut on. That's a 14 by 1.5. So the old ones we ended up kind of wrecking wrecking 2 of them, one on the front and one on the back. So when we hammered the axle back, we had the nut on there to just try to protect the threads, but the axle was so seized in there that we ended up damaging the nut, and we ended up damaging the threads. So we'll tighten that. Then we're just going to put a cotter pin into here. We'll come back. Same thing, we'll just look in our cotter pin container. We'll take a cotter pin and we're gonna put the cotter pin through the hole and just prevent the hub from coming off. So I have these two spacers, and we marked it left, so that goes just on the left hub. The tire will go on. Then we will put the second spacer on the wheel.
Yeah.
Got 4 of the lug nuts, so we'll put those on and we'll tighten it out, and this side's all done. Then we'll go over to the right side and finish that up. So I'll do just a 12 mil socket just to tighten all those ones up. Okay, so, okay, go ahead. So what we did here is we bought the brake pads, and we have the brake pads. So we got to double check because we can't get the drum to fit over the pad. So they either gave us the wrong pads or this hub is bent. So I'm thinking that the
Well, it's all cracked here from pounding this with the hammer.
yeah, so I'm not sure if we just kind of made it unround hammering it, or like I say, I mean, there's a couple different models of this one here. So we'll put it on here anyway, and we'll confirm the part number. And it's either the pads itself or this drum, so we can either get new pads or a new drum. Anyway.
There's a rubber O-ring. It'd probably be easier to put this on the housing here and put the bolts through it. Might make it easier too, actually, just to put a bit of grease on here so the seal sticks to it.
Should be okay.
Yep. Mosquito.
So we got that on.
Yeah, so then there's 6 10mm bolts.
They'll go around
Around the case.
We'll get those on, then we'll come back.
Okay, the next thing to do is to put on this large washer and then these 2 nuts. I don't remember what size. I think somebody said they were 41mm. We're just going to use an adjustable wrench to tighten them down because we don't have a wrench that big. Basically what you do is you tighten down this one nut and then you slide this one on, tighten this down onto this nut so they can't loosen off. It's like...
Okay, so we got the second nut on there, and we just kind of tighten it onto each other. That's done. We're just going to grease the spline. We'll put the hub on, nut, and spacer. And you can kind of take a look here. So this is what happened. So when we pounded the axle out going through the bike, we had a nut on here to kind of just to hammer onto. And as you can see, we kind of screwed the threads up. So our friend just kind of turn down the threads on the end, so that way we can thread the nut onto and just put the cotter pin in. So it works.
the washer.
Right here. Put that on. We'll put a new nut on.
Just like new.
And tighten that up, and cotter pin's just right below the camera. I like your torque wrench.
Yes. Tight.
Put that in, we'll bend that, and we'll cut it off.
You just gotta remember these. I'm not sure if they're a spacer or what the purpose of this is. Just prevent damage, I guess, to the rim when you tighten the nuts down.
Yep. So we mark that. No, there we go. Yeah, that side. We'll take a look at the wear pattern on it. So that one kind of goes backwards to the other one here.
I don't think it matters. They're both the same.
So we'll put the tire on. We'll put the spacer, and we'll put the 4 nuts, and we'll come back. Okay, we got both tires on, and we can rock it, and there's absolutely no noise, so there's no play in those wheels at all. So we'll just wheel it up to the door, and I think our last thing we're gonna do for now, we're gonna have to order a new brake drum or new brakes, so we'll double check that. But we got a little battery from the pawn store for it, so we're just charging it up right now. Put that in and try it out. Okay, we've got the new battery installed. Just connect it up and we'll see if she starts. I guess we have to add some fuel to it as well. Just put the bracket, hold the battery down. We'll just leave the seat off and we'll try cranking it. Fuel's on. We've added some gas. We only put about 1 liter in it right now. Actually started pretty good with the new spark plug. We welded up the exhaust. Electric start hasn't worked in probably 25 years. How about the light bar? That seems to work. Let's put the seat on and take it for a ride. Do we have any fuel leaks? I don't see anything dripping at all, so just spitting a little bit of exhaust out the tank, or out the exhaust, sorry. But I think we added some oil, 2-stroke oil to the fuel just to kind of...
That and a lot of stabilizer oil when I sprayed the cylinder.
Okay, who's going for the first ride? I think we just have to work on the brakes, but for a 40-year-old machine, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, we had encountered some problems with the axles being seized in there, the bearings and everything else. We had to pound it, had to get the axle machine down, but it runs great. These things are awesome machines if you're hunting or whatever. I mean, 2 guys can easily lift this in and out of a boat. So, I mean, and they're phenomenal in the snow. So we'll keep this thing going as long as we can. 1983 Honda Big Red seems to run pretty good. And the electric starts work for the first time in 35 years. We'll see you on the next video.